All right. Welcome, everyone, to the 2021 kickoff for HealthTech Arkansas, our fourth year of doing this program and conducting these kickoffs. So really excited to share with you all a number of things tonight. We're going to go through a little bit about the HealthTech Arkansas program. I'm going to share a few slides. Then we have a couple of fantastic speakers for you. And then we'll conclude and wrap up with what you all are here for, which is to meet our 5 new companies in this year's cohort that we're really, really excited about. So I'm Jeff Stinson. I'm the director of HealthTech Arkansas. Emily, if we can advance our slides, we are we are an acceleration program that's for and by providers. So I wanted to start with this slide because this is a collection of our provider partners inside our coalition. It represents the 10 largest hospitals and health systems inside the state of Arkansas, plus 2 large independent physician practices. And this is obviously this is just a powerhouse of companies that support our innovations in healthcare inside the state of Arkansas. As we travel around the country recruiting early stage companies into our program, the most often asked question I get is, how in the world did you get 10 hospitals and health systems to guarantee pilot projects and clinical trials with early stage companies? And I tell people the only good answer for that is that this is the state of Arkansas. We all know each other and we collaborate. And that is very much true. It's easy enough for me to get a meeting with the CEOs of these organizations and talk to them about what we're doing. And they're generally very receptive to collaborating with us. And as you all know, if I'm in a major metropolitan market like Boston or San Francisco, it's often difficult for me to even get that meeting to begin with. So it's one of the great things that I love about our state. And I'm sure Mike Preston is going to tell you more great things about the state of Arkansas in just a bit. Our team, this is a fantastic group of individuals top to bottom. Dr. Amy Hester and Emily Dean have been with us since day one of the program. About a year and a half ago, we added Dr. Stephanie Benton as our clinical director, and almost a year ago, we added Alyssa Thoreau as an intern. And we have never lost anyone from our team at HealthTech Arkansas. And I think the reason that is true is because we're just doing really cool stuff. And, honestly, who would not want to work with venture capital backed, highly innovative companies as they introduce new technologies to hospitals and health systems? We just have a fantastic job, and I think that's why we keep our people in what we're doing. So 2 program tracks of HealthTech Arkansas, just to remind folks. I think what we are mostly known for is our work with out-of-state companies. Certainly outside the state of Arkansas, this is what we're known for. So we essentially go out and we recruit these accomplished venture capital-backed healthcare companies that are bringing new technologies to market. We aggregate those, we vet them, assess them. We present a curated list every year to our 10 hospitals and health systems. Those health system partners interview finalist companies and then choose 5 companies a year to get into our program. Once those hospitals make the decision on the companies that get into the program, we go about facilitating those pilot projects and clinical trials. And we also invest $75,000 into each company from a private investment pool that we have established. And again, we've done that 4 years in a row. It has gone really well. We have grown our hospital coalition every year. We've grown our applicant pool every year. And so that part of it has been very successful. The investment fund itself has been very successful. So we have happy investors in terms of what we're doing. So that part has gone really well. But just as important to us is our work with Arkansas-based companies. So we have a fairly large number of healthcare startups inside the state of Arkansas. Oftentimes those companies are not quite ready to conduct pilot projects inside a hospital, but they really need that engagement with the clinicians and administrators inside of our organizations. So HealthTech Arkansas goes about the work of facilitating those introductions and working with Arkansas-based companies to do everything we can to help them grow and succeed. So we'll show you some impact metrics on what we're doing here in just a bit. So to date, over our 4 years, we have conducted just over 30 pilot projects and clinical trials in our first 3 years of the program. Obviously, we'll add to that number in this year. That's harder than it seems. For those of you who have done work inside of hospitals, to facilitate that many pilot projects is a big deal, and a lot of work has gone into that. We've also assisted 35 Arkansas-based healthcare startups. We've recruited 33 Arkansans as early stage investors into the 2 HealthTech Arkansas funds, which is really good. And we have invested in 21 companies to date. And so that part of it, again, has gone really well for us. Our clinical advisory board, this is a group of 5 clinicians around the state of Arkansas, and they really are the backbone of what we do. We have found that they are critical to our work. They essentially facilitate all of the work at their organizations with these early stage companies, both those we bring in from outside the state, as well as our Arkansas-based entrepreneurs. With the support of AEDC, our plan is to almost double the size of this clinical advisory board next year. We're going to go from 5 participants to 9 participants, and that's going to allow us to do even more great work inside of our program. So I wanted to tell you just briefly about an innovation program that's really important to HealthTech Arkansas, because I think this is one of the ways that we have evolved over the 4 years. So just over a year ago, we joined forces with 2 other entrepreneurial support organizations inside the state, specifically the Conductor in Conway, Arkansas, and Startup Junkie in Fayetteville, along with the Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Arkansas. And the 4 of us went about the work of conducting a multi-year comprehensive innovation program for Arkansas Children's. And this has been really transformative to us as an organization, and I also think we've had a big impact on Arkansas Children's as well. There are a lot of different facets to this program, and I wish we had time to tell you about all of the great work that we're doing in that, but we have gone all in as an organization to try to make this program as successful as it can be, and we've learned a lot. And one of the things that we have learned is that on any of our health system campuses, there is a large repository of intellectual property that is sitting there undeveloped today. And one of the things that we're doing at Arkansas Children's is helping to develop that intellectual property, ultimately to commercialize it. And so I think that's one of the exciting things that we have learned, that we are going to expand to other hospitals and health systems. And in fact, we have conversations underway with a couple of them already to not only develop the intellectual property from their own individuals, but also activities that lead directly to job creation and economic development through new startups. So that's really cool. So you're going to be hearing more about that from HealthTech Arkansas in the coming years, but I did want to mention that. And then the last sort of topic I wanted to touch on, that you're going to hear a little bit more from Patrick Wayte here in just a minute from the American Heart Association, is that this year, for the first time in our history, we have decided to focus our cohort on cardiovascular health. This chart simply shows a trend line of deaths related to cardiovascular disease per 100,000 people. The red line is the trend line for the United States overall. The green line is the trend line for Arkansas. So you can see that not only are we above the national average, but we're trending in the wrong direction. And so because of that, the cardiology practices inside the state of Arkansas, those practices are very important to our health systems. They have large, robust innovative practices. So we got together with our hospital partners this year and decided collectively that we wanted to devote an entire cohort to cardiovascular health to see if we can move the needle in this one clinical area. And I will tell you, if the quality of this year's cohort is an indicator of what we can accomplish in this area, then we're likely to replicate this again next year, because the teams we've recruited this year are just fantastic in this cohort. It's an important clinical area for us as a state, and we want to really try to do our part to help move the needle in this area. So this is our 2021 cohort. You'll see that for the very first time, we have admitted international companies, and we actually have two of them, one from Switzerland, one from Israel, and that's kind of neat for us. So far for the first 3 years, all of our companies have been U.S. based, and we don't target any geographic locations for any of our cohorts. We just go out and we recruit the best companies, and wherever they're located is where they're located. It's just that this year our hospitals chose two companies that were based outside the U.S., and we're looking forward to working with them. So I think that is my part of the agenda tonight, to give you just a little bit of information about HealthTech Arkansas. What I would now like to do is I'm going to introduce a couple of speakers. First up is Patrick Wayte. Patrick is the Senior Vice President for the Center for Health Technology and Innovation at the American Heart Association. His assistant gave me this little bio to read, so I'm going to do that. Patrick is the SVP of the AHA Center for Health Technology and Innovation. In this role, he leads integrated digital health initiatives across the health continuum with a focus on secondary prevention, healthcare transition, chronic care, and the use and application of the AHA's science to digital platforms and technology. Patrick holds a degree in economics from the University of California, San Diego, and an MBA from Vanderbilt University, which happens to be my alma mater as well. One of the neat things that Patrick and I have done over the last year or so is, over many hours and many conversations, is tried to figure out how can we collaborate to address cardiovascular disease through new innovations. And I think you're going to hear some pretty exciting stuff from us in the next year. But Patrick, we really appreciate you jumping on and talking to us a little bit about the AHA.
Well, thanks, Jeff. And just a quick sound check. Are you hearing me okay?
We can.
Ah, beautiful. Well, and thanks for that intro. And what a fantastic gathering. So thrilled to see the work that's happening here over many years, and excited about where it's all going. I'll just continue to share that at the American Heart Association, we're also the American Stroke Association. So lest our neurological friends get annoyed with us, we're very interested in stroke and all things neurological. So having said that, I'm thrilled that you're focused on this particular topic. In other words, heart health focus this year. And as Jeff noted, we're going to continue to think about how to work together as we go forward, and where our interests align, and how we galvanize great companies to come forward and build evidence. And I'll just share as background, one of the things that our CEO, Nancy Brown, who's been a real visionary and a leader in this area for some time with regard to innovation and digital health, asked me to do, and our small team out of Dallas is really to build a focus area and trying to understand how the AHA and the ASA could model itself into the digital health space, how we could take the core product of the AHA, which is really our brand and our science, and build mechanisms from it, derive from it digital science, such that we could align with a wide range of digital health companies and solutions, and basically build almost an AHA inside-like approach, inspiring evidence-based approaches to care, and also finding ways with such companies to build the evidence, doing implementation studies and trials, much like you're doing here. There is a dearth of evidence in digital health. We know it works. We've studied it ourselves in many different ways, building our own solutions in blood pressure management, remote patient monitoring, and heart failure. And as a skeptical organization, as we stepped down this road, we started studying these things ourselves. But I'm really inspired by the extraordinary work that's happening around the world in digital health and the hundreds of billions of dollars that are flowing into the space, and really took the advantage of that and said, we need to align with the marketplace and not try and certainly do our own thing. And so how could we, in effect, lean into this great innovation, help it, inspire it, cultivate it where we could? And one of the great things that we're seeing is this type of work where very clever and elegant solutions are coming together into practical application in parts of the country that don't often see this kind of innovation. And so there's a great opportunity here to show practical value of digital health solutions in a variety of different health topics and a variety of different mediums and approaches, and fundamentally to build outcomes and the bolus of evidence around the impact of this work at scale. And our philosophy is that fundamentally we can build and position the AHA's brand here, but more importantly, we can help the marketplace build and show that scalable digital health solutions can have a major impact on healthcare and allow patients and their families to learn, self-actualize, and also to free up and unburden to a certain extent the provider and clinical community to do more with fewer and fewer of them out there. And technology really has that potential, but it isn't going to be showcased unless we have real evidence on the back end. And so we can't thank you enough for the effort here. It's noble, it's elegant, it's powerful. And our feeling is that much more of this is needed, not less. And we thank you so much for embracing these wonderful companies and their solutions and working to implement them and build that evidence. And I'll simply say as well, in full disclosure, that several of the companies in your cohort this year we're closely aligned with Lumi and Moving Analytics. And these are examples of relationships that we're building in our own way. And we have what we call an innovators network, a cohort of our own, of companies that we work with to do this kind of thing as well, to build evidence and to blend the AHA's science up and through their solutions. And so if you can't tell, we're very excited about what this space offers. And we really applaud Jeff and his team and HealthTech Arkansas for taking a lead here and doing what no one thought was possible except on the coast, right? To showcase innovation, to bring great companies together and do practical implementation studies and showcase what's possible with digital health. And we're really looking forward to doing more in the coming days, weeks, and months and years with Jeff and his team. So thanks for having me, and look forward to hearing the other presentations and seeing this get kicked off.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate the very kind words. So next I'd like to introduce a very good friend of the program. Mike Preston is the Executive Director of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission and our Secretary of Commerce. He fills two roles there. The AEDC, we can't overstate the importance of what they have meant to our program. We literally would not be here and have done all the good work without the support of the AEDC as a funding source for us. And Mike personally is just a champion of innovation inside the state of Arkansas with our state's accelerator programs and through other initiatives. So Mike, we really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us tonight and look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you for the introduction. And first of all, congratulations to you and the entire HealthTech Arkansas team on what looks like another just outstanding group of cohorts. And I know it's going to be another successful program again this year. So the state is extremely pleased to partner with HealthTech Arkansas and the great hospitals that are represented in the medical community that's a part of this. It is so important to our state. I remember going back when the governor and I first were having these conversations about what more can we do to really help the startup community, but also that emerging technology companies in Arkansas and that community to bring into our state. And Patrick, I appreciate your remarks, because in so many ways people are looking at the coast and they can do it on either coast, but we can do it right here in Arkansas, and we've proven that. And through these programs, through the accelerator programs, this is exactly what we had in mind back then, is that if we make an investment as a state and we go alongside and partner with private businesses, we can bring them to our state and showcase all the great things we have here. And Jeff, you touched on this, and some of it is the access that you will have to these great institutions and hospitals and medical care in Arkansas. You won't get that anywhere else really in the country or even in the world. So I'm glad to see that the worldwide global perspective is bringing folks here to Arkansas, albeit virtually. So we do have this great opportunity in front of us. And, I won't get on my soapbox about Arkansas too much, because I could spend up the rest of the time just talking about what a great state we have and what a great business climate. I think you'll see that over the coming weeks of this accelerator program and all the great things that we have to offer. But access is another thing. If you as a company are looking to do business in our state, you pick up the phone and you're going to get myself or someone on our team who are just going to figure out, all right, how do we get things done? It's not, no and leave us alone. It's maybe the answer is no, but here's how we can get a path to yes, and we're going to work through you. And I want to introduce Catherine Andrews, who's the division director for AEDC of our small business and entrepreneurship division. Currently, it was just announced today that she'll be leaving us at the end of the month to head up the Office of Outdoor Recreation. So if you do come to Arkansas and you want to do something outdoors, just talk to Catherine, and she's in charge of all the outdoors now for Arkansas. So we appreciate her time at the department and all that she's brought to the table. And I know we'll still work very closely with her, but our team will continue to be here to assist and help you as you go through this process. And I saw the slide with the companies represented. I saw that we have an Israeli company on the cohort, and that's exciting. The governor and myself are actually leaving Saturday on a trade mission to Israel. So we've been working for a number of years with Israeli companies and the Israeli government on finding startup companies who are interested in making investments and doing business in the U.S. And here we have one already involved in this cohort. So if we have more time in the schedule, I'd certainly love to spend some time with you while we were there. It's probably a little bit late notice now, and I think the embassy would wring our necks if we tried to change the schedule at this point. But maybe we can see you when you come into the U.S. And we've been to Switzerland a few times before as well, with some great Swiss-owned companies that are located here in Arkansas. So we'd certainly welcome that invitation as well. But if you think about some of the great companies that we do have here, they all started as small companies with an idea and figured out how to innovate and grow, and now become these behemoths in industries that they are. Companies like Walmart, that is Fortune 1 on the list, and the largest company in the world is headquartered right here in Arkansas, and down the line from J.B. Hunt to Tyson and Dillard's and Axiom, and these great companies that were founded here out of these ideas. But it was that spirit of collaboration that we have in Arkansas, and working together, and that talented workforce, and bringing everyone together. And I'm excited that you all are now a part of that. And maybe you won't, ever get the opportunity to visit Arkansas or do business here, but we now know that we're on your radar screen, and maybe in the future it'll give us that opportunity to compete and work with you on your business opportunities. So the state is pleased to be a partner in this. Jeff, it's really the leadership through you and your team that we get these things done, and we're excited about it. But we're here, our team will be here throughout this process. And I just welcome everyone to Arkansas. And just remember, your dollar is going to go a little bit further here, and your relative value of $100 is number one in the country. So if you have $100, it's going to spend further in Arkansas than it is anywhere else in the country. So we welcome you into our state, and we welcome with you open arms. I'm a transplant myself, and couldn't be happier to call Arkansas home. So welcome everyone, and best of luck to you. Jeff, I'll kick it back over to you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. You're a terrific ambassador for the state of Arkansas, and you're exactly right. Access is so critical for these companies, and it's why they come into HealthTech Arkansas, to get that hospital access, and for each of them to know that we can actually get them involved and engage directly with senior leadership at our hospitals and health systems is just unheard of. And I think it's a big selling point of our program. All right. So now what everyone wanted to hear, which is they want to meet our companies, right, from this year. So we're going to, each one of these companies is going to do a quick little 3-minute introduction of their company to give us a chance to meet them. So first up is a company called Geneticist, and Piyush Srivastava is going to introduce his company to us. Piyush?
Perfect. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
We can.
Excellent. And then can someone give me the screen share access? There it is. All right. And then hopefully everyone can see the slides okay. Fantastic. Well, we're very excited at Geneticist to be a part of the HealthTech Arkansas cohort. I've already had the joy of being in Arkansas. I was in the Big Dam Bridge ride a couple of weeks ago with our chief medical officer. So we're already loving it. But we're a biomagnetism company. We're based in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we talked about the impact of heart disease. Obviously, we're all familiar with the growing need for innovative technology in this problem, and cardiac stress testing is a prime example of opportunity for innovation in the fight against cardiovascular disease. On all fronts, cardiac stress testing represents a very ineffective paradigm for evaluating patients with suspected coronary disease or ischemia. Over 10 million stress tests performed in the United States every year. 60% of those are done in the office setting. And there's various types of stress tests. There's tests as simple as the EKG treadmill stress test, or as complex and expensive as the nuclear stress test, which involves the use of radioisotopes. But on net, there's two takeaways from this slide, and two takeaways for us as a company in the fight against cardiac stress testing. The first is there's a lot to be desired in terms of efficacy. There's a high number of false positives and a considerable number of false negatives associated with stress testing. A lot of that is technical, but over and above the efficacy pieces, there are inefficiencies that are built into the stress testing paradigm that make it really inaccessible often. So for example, the use of radioisotopes really adds to the cost. It adds to radiation exposure for patients and providers. And from a hospital access perspective, especially in the COVID era environment, throughput for these stress tests is very limited. So length of stay and then general patient satisfaction are significantly impacted in a stress test focused paradigm. And we know for a fact that Arkansas has taken very progressive steps to curb the use of stress testing in its emergency departments for patients with chest pain coming in. But on net, this remains a really big problem, the overuse of stress testing in the chest pain workflow, both in the hospital and in the cardiology practice setting. I'm really pleased to introduce the CardioFlux solution. This is a completely new way of thinking about imaging for coronary disease and ischemia. Our product is FDA cleared. We have breakthrough device designation. And this is really the opposite of an MRI. So instead of emitting a magnetic field to evaluate the structure or anatomy of the heart, we measure the fields that are naturally generated by the heart. And although this looks like a big piece of technology, the test itself takes less than 3 minutes to perform. End to end, from a patient being placed on the table to a report being generated, is less than 5 minutes. An EKG technician or a med assistant can be trained to use this in less than 2 hours. And the test is performed completely at rest. No pharmaceuticals, no radiation, no contrast, and really no contraindications from a safety perspective. And the last piece I'll leave you with here: the purpose of this technology is to enable rapid, cost-effective, and patient-centric evaluation of chest pain, both in the outpatient cardiology setting and in the hospital emergency department setting. So to diagnose ischemia and coronary artery disease. I'll leave you with this last piece, just a little bit of our traction. Our company has raised about $25 million since 2016 when we started building this technology. We built all of our intellectual property in-house, 16 patents. We are a company that has about 30 employees in our business, as I mentioned, based in Cincinnati, Ohio. A robust clinical trial portfolio. We have installed our systems at the Cleveland Clinic, at Ascension, Beaumont, Wake Forest. Baylor is next on our list, and we are very excited again to be a part of the HealthTech Arkansas 2021 cohort, and looking forward to enabling CardioFlux access for patients throughout the state of Arkansas.
Excellent. Thank you, Piyush, very, very much. And we're equally excited about working with you. So next up, Heidi Imaging from Zurich, Switzerland, Dr. Utku Gulan.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for the introduction. Today, as a Heidi Imaging team, we are with you and we are very excited to be part of the HealthTech Arkansas program. Our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Caracas, is also with us. And next slide, please, Özge. Imagine how happy you are when jumping around in the park with your grandchildren. If we can only prevent ourselves from all those troubles waiting for us just ahead of a curve. Heart valve dysfunction is one of them. Globally, over 10 million patients suffer from this disease. And every year, 500,000 patients undergo minimally invasive operations, and 1/3 of them do not show improvements, living with severe limitations in their daily lives. 1/3. It's a huge pain, not only for patients, but also for physicians. This is why Heidi Imaging was founded in 2019. Our technology is a combination of different state-of-the-art technologies and is a result of 13 years of scientific expertise. We are developing an AI-supported cardiac planning software to improve the success rate of the cardiac operations. We are revolutionizing medical imaging with an advanced AI technology to help doctors perform fast, accurate, and personalized surgical plans within seconds. Our software is focusing on 3 different aspects, namely diagnostics, future medicine, and personalized medicine. Our anatomy analysis tool is 50 times faster compared to the commercially available softwares in the market. And also, it is the world's first software which predicts post-operational blood flow abnormalities before the actual operations. And the users can also extract personalized implantation parameters using our software. Next slide, please. At the moment, we are signed up with 9 hospitals across Europe and in the US, and we are proud to serve 3 paying customers from industry all around the world. We are looking forward to the program, and we strongly believe that the outcome will be very fruitful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gulan. And we certainly hope you can make the trip across the ocean and visit us in Arkansas as part of your program efforts. All right, next up we have Lumi Health, Fahad Rahman.
Hi, thanks so much, Jeff. And thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to this, this great kickoff. Lumi Health is focused on saving lives and reducing billions of dollars in spend by improving how cardiologists manage medications for heart failure patients. There's over 6 million heart failure patients in the United States today. We expect that number to grow to over 8 million by 2030. And almost all of the patients today are not on the right medications due to suboptimal and delayed decisions, oftentimes by cardiologists. Now, we're not blaming cardiologists like Dr. Susie here, but oftentimes to do this right takes a ton of integration, which they don't have the bandwidth or the resources to do today. It involves integrating and understanding the latest clinical guidelines around the latest clinical research and medications. On average, a heart failure patient has multiple other disease conditions, and they on average have 9 medications that they're on at any given time. There's no clear method for prioritization of figuring out which are the patients the cardiologist should be focusing on any given day or at any given point in the day. And lastly, there's really, really important biomarkers about the patient that are missing that can help understand the physiological status of the patient and inform that appropriate medication decision-making. Today, this process typically takes weeks, months, oftentimes years, and patients deteriorate and often either die early or end up in the hospital unnecessarily. Doing this better and faster will not only save lives, but will also reduce a tremendous amount of excess spend in the system. What Lumi Health is doing is we're doing this 10 times faster through our full stack heart failure centric solution. And just at a high level, what the solution includes is a technology component, so a medication intervention platform that we've developed, which identifies where those improvement opportunities are and stays continuously updated with the latest guidelines. We have devices that help capture those in-home biomarkers and really layer in a deeper understanding of the physiological status and the evolving clinical condition of the patient. But then lastly, and informed by a lot of the work that my co-founder and I have done in clinical improvement and care delivery, is most physicians are not necessarily looking for technology only solutions today. They're looking for people to actually pick up the ball and engage patients to deliver an outcome. And that's where we bring our virtual care team, which is led by clinical ambulatory pharmacists and supported by RNs, to help engage the patients in an effective way to address and mitigate these ongoing conditions. We've also built a machine learning algorithm that can help predict clinical risk up to 1 year in advance, looking at the propensity of a patient to have a high risk event. I'll leave you with just some initial data points that we have from the 600 heart failure patients that we're currently managing. We've actually found that 86% of these patients were not at target dose, and 80% of the prescriptions across these patients were not at target dose. So we found that there was a massive opportunity for improvement to getting to what's called guideline-directed medical therapy with these patients in compliance with the evidence-based standards. But what was a really interesting insight was 75% of the improvement opportunity was concentrated in 3 medication classes and 3 providers. So this is really where we've focused our efforts on, and really is part of the ethos of Lumi Health, which is identifying the highest concentration of improvement opportunity and focusing efforts there to move the overall panel health. You know, we're really excited to be part of HealthTech Arkansas and look forward to learning more and working with systems in the area. And just one last point, just to give you an idea of how broad this network is. I was just in a meeting right before this meeting with a previous HealthTech Arkansas alum who was really successful. So that just really made it obvious for us that this is a great choice, and we're glad to be part of the team.
Thank you, Wayte. I appreciate that very much. Yes, we are doing our best to build the network across the country and now across the world with HealthTech Arkansas cohort companies. So next up, we have Dr. Harsh Vasungam from Los Angeles-based company called Moving Analytics. Harsh.
Hi all. Let me just confirm you can see my screen now. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this cohort. So I'm Harsh Vasungam, the CEO of Moving Analytics, and we provide virtual cardiac rehab for patients after an acute coronary event. Our mission as a company is to empower every individual to live a life free of cardiovascular disease. And the reason we started in rehab is really one of access and participation in care. Every year, there are about 3.5 million patients who have an acute coronary event, like a heart attack, heart failure diagnosis, or heart surgery. And for these patients, studies show that if you start and complete a cardiac rehab program, which is a clinically driven lifestyle modification program, your risk of getting readmitted is cut in half, and your risk of living another 5 years doubles. Your probability of living another 5 years doubles. But nationally, less than 16% of eligible patients participate. And the problem is even more dire in the state of Arkansas, where it's lower than the national average as well. The reasons patients don't participate is really one of access. So to participate in rehab, you have to visit a brick and mortar facility, and there aren't enough facilities to serve all patients, which means that often classes are offered at limited times. You have to take time off from work. You have to drive long distances, or often there's a 2 to 3 month long wait list to get into your class, which negatively impacts outcomes. So we've created a program called Move-In, which is a currently commercially reimbursed virtual cardiac rehab service that a patient can do from the comfort of their home. Our idea is to take that in-person rehab experience and then convert it into an at-home experience that is super convenient, yet evidence-based and proven to improve or exceed outcomes compared to care. Through our program, we are currently covered as a benefit by 6 health plans and deployed in 25 facilities across the US. We've served several thousand patients now at this point, and through our deployments, we've shown through our own clinical trials that we can take rehab participation from that 16% number to a 70% or higher enrollment number and an 80% completion number as well. We've also been able to demonstrate through our programs that we meet or exceed the cardiovascular outcomes that are typical for rehab, and that we can reduce readmissions by 50 to 60% through our programs as well. And we are super excited to be part of HealthTech Arkansas because we really think that we can take the benefits of this life-saving service that is cardiac rehabilitation and make it available to all Arkansans and therefore democratize access to this life-saving service as well. So it's a pleasure to meet you all, and I look forward to interacting with everybody as part of this program as well.
Thank you, Harsh, very much. Yes, I think not only does moving analytics have the ability to improve clinical outcomes and increase access to care in the state, but we're going to do our best to give you some data to improve your payer coverage as well, and maybe bring on some additional payers as part of your network. All right, last up is SonyV, our Israeli-based company, Dr. Charles Carignan. Dr. Carignan?
Hi. Jeff, first of all, thank you for including us in this year's cohort. We're very excited to be part of it. And as you can probably tell, I don't sound like I'm Israeli. I'm actually based in Boston. The company is an Israeli-based company, but also we have a group here in the US, including myself and our clinical and regulatory team as well. But anybody that's in Israel, I welcome you to stop by and visit our company in Rosh Hashanah. And if you ask people about Rosh Hashanah, they'll ask you why you want to go there. And you can say, well, it's the Arkansas equivalent, I think, for how people view it. But it's a great place with lots of great things happening, lots of great, exciting companies emerging out of Rosh Hashanah. And we happen to be one of them in a very tech-focused building right in the center of the city. So at SonyV, we have a treatment for systemic hypertension by doing renal artery denervation. So stage 2 hypertension is what we're really addressing, which is a blood pressure that's greater than 140/90. Every year, 500,000 people die as a result of the complications from hypertension, and the costs in the US are estimated at over $130 billion. Of the 105 million people that have hypertension, 36 million people have been diagnosed with stage 2 hypertension. Of those, 19 million people either don't or can't take medications due to a lot of the side effects that they get, and are unable to reduce their blood pressure to below 140 systolic. 9.8 million people in the US actually have treatment-resistant hypertension. That means they're taking at least 3 medications, and even with taking 3 or more medications, still cannot get their blood pressure to below 140/90, and therefore are at much higher risk of having these complications of hypertension, such as heart attack, stroke, and renal disease. So the first line treatments for hypertension are diet, exercise, and antihypertensive medication. But as I mentioned, we have patients that are taking at least 3 medications in various combinations and still have elevated pressures. And many of them can't tolerate the combination of side effects that they get in all these medications. So renal artery denervation has been in development for a while, and it's showing great promise with companies such as Medtronic, Recor, and us in the development. We've shown that the decrease of sympathetic output can cause relaxation of the vessels of the kidney. You can do this very safely, and you can get reductions in blood pressures, even in the absence of antihypertensive medication. And Medtronic expects that this market will be about a $2 billion market for them by 2030. So our product is called TIVUS, which is the therapeutic intravascular ultrasound. We use non-focused ultrasound for intravascular denervation of the renal arteries with 21 issued patents, 11 applications that are still pending, and those are across 17 different patent families. We have 2 breakthrough device designations from the FDA for both resistant and uncontrolled hypertension, and we've got excellent early clinical results. And we also have an application with another breakthrough designation in treating pulmonary hypertension. The procedure is very user-friendly. It's controlled by our console that you see here and uses a single-use catheter that has at the tip of it 3 very high-tech ultrasound transducers that are treating in 3 directions simultaneously to achieve our treatment in a very quick outpatient procedure. So I'm going to show you an animation of the procedure. This was done actually with our older catheter, which only had an ultrasound transducer in 1 direction, and we then subsequently developed it to have it in 3 directions so we can save time and not having to rotate the catheter.
The TIVUS system performs safe, reliable, and highly reproducible renal nerve ablation. The TIVUS catheter is advanced into the renal artery using routine over-the-wire catheterization techniques. By applying traditional catheter rotation techniques, The TVUS catheter is placed freely in the lumen, led by a standard 0.014-inch guide wire. The ultrasound transducer requires no direct mechanical contact with the vessel wall. Ultrasound waves are transmitted from the tip of the catheter through the arterial wall to the surrounding renal nerves. The nerve ablation is carried out in several circumferential locations. The TVUS catheter is then retracted and advanced into the contralateral renal artery, where the procedure is repeated.
So you can see it's a very quick procedure, excellent clinical results, and we look forward to working with our partner hospitals in Arkansas on getting our pilot US study launched next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Krignan. I would not be a healthcare accelerator kickoff if we did not have at least one clinical explanatory video to be shown during that. So thank you for sharing that with us. All right, so that wraps up this year's kickoff. Thanks to all who joined. We really can't wait to see these folks come to Arkansas in person and get their pilot projects and clinical studies kicked off with our partners. Thanks, everyone, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.